All right. Okay. Hey, everyone. I think Google's working a little better today, so we're feeling kind of happy about all that. We'll see. Knock on wood everywhere we can. See what's going on here, but everything seems to be running pretty well right now, as of this point. We appreciate you guys. I know. Yesterday we were going from one podcast to the other, and all that.
Here's a quiz for everybody.
Yeah.
How do you make unsweetened almond milk taste better? Put in chocolate syrup.
That makes sense. I've had. What we're on here is we're on a this boba tea, which is like a huge thing in parts of the country. Not around us though. Like I don't know. Is it big up in Buffalo?
I've never heard of it. Ovaltine? Okay. Oh, Ovaltine.
Boba tea. No, not Ovaltine.
No. This is not the 1950s, Mike.
No, I've never heard of it.
Boba tea. There's only like there's only one place around here. It's like the King of Prussia Mall, but it's in California. People are watching out west. It's like it is like the rage. Like California always has everything like this before. I
went to that place in King of Prussia like 3 weeks ago, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the food was great. The tea was great. Like that place, I would go back in a heartbeat. I love that place.
Yeah, isn't it good?
It is good.
Yeah, we have Tivana around here, but that's
no. This is Tivana. This is like I like Tivana, but you're only getting a passion tea here. This place has stuff that I had no idea what was in the tea. I don't even know what that purple thing is that's floating in there. I didn't eat it because I was afraid.
No, you're not. The bobas are like there's like
I don't know what that is. I was afraid to eat that.
They're delicious. They're like 20 of those black black marble type things on the bottom.
Okay, I was afraid.
They're amazing. They're like tapioca pudding is what they are.
Okay, because I liked everything about the tea. I may have chewed on a little bit of one, but they had a bunch of them in there, and I stayed away. I was nervous.
Oh, yeah, that's the greatest part of it, man. That's crazy.
It was still pretty great. It was.
Can I just say this? Then we'll start talking about hockey. I realize that businesses like Starbucks, they want to offer variety to get more people to come in, but it's gotten to the point of the ridiculousness. Now it's like I go in there and they have our new product, the cinnamon almond toasted coconut macchiato with. I mean, there's like 7 different things in here. How do you know what it's?
Yeah.
Well, that's what's good about this boba tea. You can only get like a couple of kinds, and that's it.
Yeah, it's and I made it here too. It's a special kind of like Thai tea with sweetened condensed milk is what they do. Is how they make it.
Okay.
So you put sweetened condensed milk in the regular tea. That's going to be pretty amazing right off the bat.
Right.
And then you throw these tapioca pudding balls into it. Just forget about it. It's a full meal. I mean, it's
not
real,
a full meal. No, it's not.
It's a lot.
People, it's not a full meal. No, it's not.
You're full after you're done. I mean,
I had a teriyaki chicken and something else. Don't think it's a full meal, people. It's not.
I had one.
Eckhead had some sous vide beef and a glass of Take a Boost.
I wouldn't even make it at home. I would suggest people go to the place.
Probably the only one like around us. I mean, I'm sure people in California are laughing at us because it's been out there for a long time. It's just similar to when I was dating my wife before we got married. Now we're looking at 20 years ago. There was and she was in San Jose. We were kind of I was living there almost all the time. That was when like fruit slushies like Jamba Juice was taken off.
Right.
That's when, and that wasn't here yet. And I was having out there like strawberries, banana slushies, and all that stuff. And this is incredible. That's where boba tea is right now. It's like the same kind of thing.
You figure another 10 years and it'll get to Buffalo.
Yeah, Ross. I was gonna say just about right now, Buffalo is getting hummus.
Well, yes, Buffalo was first in maple syrup, but they're last in everything else.
Yeah,
not chicken wings.
It's funny because New York hasn't even really gotten it yet, which is kind of like
they have it.
It's one of those. It is definitely one of those California things. There are shows that are on TV though where you can see it. And I want to throw out a show recommendation for everybody now. And this is going to really crack people up because they're not going to believe that I actually love this show. Okay. Well, first of all, we just watched Big Little Lies on HBO.
Yes, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good, I thought. I mean, it wasn't awesome. It was a little predictable, but it was.
I don't know. I don't know if it was predictable. I think it was. I think it was pretty unpredictable. I think the part that was a little off is if that many people in that town are that angry, then something's wrong with that town. Like that, these are the angriest people on earth.
This is the kind of town that I'm talking about. This is like the boba type town. This is like Monterey, California.
Yeah.
This is, and these houses are freaking unbelievable in this. in paradise. Like all of their they've won like a glass wall on the ocean. Everyone has that in their house, right? So it's crazy, and the acting was pretty good. I mean, it was really interesting how
very good.
How men were portrayed. What I really liked about it is how men were portrayed in this, because men are usually it's very rare that that men are portrayed like they were portrayed in this, and it was over the top bad, but the women, no one was perfect in this thing, but the women, it was good, because usually the whole, I forget what it's called. It's a thing you can watch a movie with. It's really bad. I can't remember, but there's this test that you can do on a movie. If ever during a movie you have two women talking to each other for more than a minute about anything that in their conversation has nothing to do with a man at all, it passes this test. And it's amazing once you start watching movies like that, you realize that it's so often that if you just have two women in a conversation with each other, they're always talking about a man. Like there's never a situation where you get just two women just talking about each other, talking about things that nothing to do with men. And
I felt bad. One of the guys who was in a Leah Thompson show where she used to draw a cartoon, I forget the name of the show, that guy was in this, and I haven't seen that guy in like 20 years. And
Caroline in the City.
Yeah, I think this guy was in Caroline in the City.
Oh, yeah, he was. That's funny. I didn't think about that.
I felt bad for his part. This guy just he did, he was not very manly. We'll leave it at that.
No, he's not.
With the exception of Bewitched, anything with Nicole Kidman in it is pretty good. So let's start the show.
Good, and
I will say this. All right, now that you went there, I would say this: there was too much Nicole Kidman in this, and you'll see what I mean when you watch it. Yes, there was.
There's no such thing as too much.
I'm going to tell you, they forced more Nicole Kidman than they needed to for a particular reason, and you'll see what that reason is as it unfolds. But
who was the other woman? The woman from Legally Blonde. What's her name?
Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon was like the other major.
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, and Shailene Woodley is really good.
And then what's his name? Lenny Kravitz's daughter's in it too.
Yes, but the thing is,
Zoe.
Nicole Kidman filled a particular role in this show that the others wouldn't do, and I'm going to leave it at that. And there was too much important.
It was an important role too, and it was just one of those things that I think
an important role.
It was important that role be filled in society, is all I could say. But because you don't see that very often.
Some of the scenes, like they should have been spread around. Some of the scenes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I got you. And the woman who was actually with the new in town woman with the kid. That's
Shailene Woodley. She was the one from. It's not the Hunger Games. She does the other not insertion. What's it called? No.
I know you're talking Divergence.
Divergence. Maybe? Yes.
Yeah, and I've never seen any of those. It's funny.
They're really good. Actually, they're very good.
Yeah, I've heard that too. My daughter loves them. She's in them.
I really.
All right, but before I go any further, the one thing I wanted to throw out this kids recommendation, okay? For a kids show, for a cartoon. I've been on the Phineas and Ferb bandwagon before, which is an incredibly good show, but that's no longer in the air. Penguins of Madagascar was a great show. And they're fun. Like the adults can get a lot out of it as well. They're like sketch comedy shows. They're really funny. There's a new one called We Bare Bears. Okay, it's on the Comedy Network, and you can watch it for free on the Comedy Network app. And it is one of the most hilarious but kids, but not like adult theme, but just like the humor is really up there. Like as far as like the kids will get it and adults will get it too. So if you want to watch something fun with your kids, We Bare Bears. It's really awesome. It's about a polar.
But is it a lot of bear humor? Like, is it?
No, I mean it's about a polar bear, a panda bear, and a grizzly bear living together in the woods. But the idea is, but it's a cartoon. It's a and the adventure.
Oh, I get that. I'm just thinking, if there are a lot of like bearisms and bear jokes, that's hard.
No, there aren't actually. There aren't at all. But it's just like anything, like good characters. Like each of these bears has a really distinct characteristic for what it is. And when you get good characters, things start to write themselves. That's like the true with any good show. So this is like that, very much so. This is really, really strong. So I
think I can bear it.
Yeah, it doesn't ever go there. It's pretty funny. I don't think they have ever went there in that thing.
I just like seeing Mike.
This conversation is unbearable. Come on, let's go.
They actually do. I know we're gonna get to hockey.
Come on, let's talk some hockey.
All right. It's not like anything exciting happened last night. All right, here we go.
Oh no, my God!
Hello, Hockey World.
Russ.
It is Tuesday, April 18th, 2017.
Oh,
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. And am I like delayed or something?
Everything's a
Yeah,
little.
Yes.
all of a sudden, like, yeah.
Stupid Google. All right, I'll be back. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Yeah, no, it just I was getting very slow video for like the last few minutes, and I mean, anyway, but okay. While Ak is rebooting his computer, there were 4 games in the.
Well, instead of the live action from last night, why don't we preview what's coming up tonight, and then when that comes back, then we can do the overtime games, because I think he's going to want to have a lot of input in that. But like, Rangers,
I was
Rangers Montreal.
okay.
Actually, he's back. Never mind.
And you're
All right, I'm back.
okay. Here we go.
Don't worry about it.
So I think we got the introduction set. I think we're good to go. So anyway, let's get into it.
Yeah.
For the first, am I okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. For the first
we can hear you.
You can hear, what is that? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You can.
Yeah.
And I'm in time.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, I feel like
yes. But very fuzzy. But we can just go.
Fuzzy. All right. Well, it should probably fix itself soon. So last night, the first time since 1980 something, 86, I guess, you had 4 playoff games going to overtime in the same night. This was all the games, and it was just one of those great hockey watching nights. Just incredible hockey watching nights, and just I don't know which was the best game of the night, but they were all really good. And all I can say is I can just watch the Toronto Maple Leafs and Washington Capitals play each other every night. Like we need a best of 15 series. This every year you have that one series you just wish would go on and on and on. This is the Maple Leafs and Capitals one to me. It's just there's so many cool subplots to it. There's so much drama to it. There's so much good talent. There's young talent. And again, the Maple Leafs, win the game, and everybody says how lucky they got, and they just got the right bounces, and they barely made it, and all this stuff. I think that's time. Once you won 2 games in the series, you got to stop. You got to start giving Toronto some credit here, and I don't even think the Capitals are choking necessarily. I really.
No, I'm
That's
sorry.
where I draw the line.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will. Okay, first of all, I'll give the Leafs all the credit in the world. They're taking advantage of the opportunities that they're given them, but the Capitals last night started to show that they needed a doctor to perform the Heimlich, because in the first, it was a complete reversal of what happened, or complete opposite of what happened in Game 1 of the series. The Leafs came out in Game 1, dominated the first 10 to 15 minutes, had the first 2 goals, then sort of let up. And then for the rest of the game, Washington dominated, tied the game, and won it in overtime. In Game 3, it was the Capitals who came out of the gate flying, hitting the Leafs defense, making, and Nikita Zaitsev, who, was on the ice for the first, and he was prepared to play. But then Washington let up a little bit, a complete lucky break goal by Austin Matthews that went off Nate Schmidt's face, and then he batted it out of midair to make it 2-1. And then the Leafs, or then the Capitals increased the lead to 3-1. And the turning point of that game was that 2-man advantage for a full 2 minutes. And when Washington did not score, and Shattenkirk had a wide open net, and then they had a power play after that, and they didn't get an opportunity, the Caps stopped playing. They stopped hitting the Leafs defense. They allowed the Leafs to regroup. And for 13 minutes in the third period, the Washington Capitals, the heavily favored, President's Trophy winning, everything, they didn't get a shot on goal in 13 minutes.
I know.
To me, it was a major miscalculation by Barry Trotz. The team let up, and they're starting to show that they're choke artists.
Here's what I took. For one thing, the Leafs aren't lucky. I agree with that. I think even that Matthews play, it takes a lot of skill to be able to get the ball.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not. I mean, yes, he gets lucky when it bounces to him on his face,
Right.
but to take the puck out of the air, put it down, get it down, he really did was a good play.
But here's the thing, and we saw a great play by Holtby, like you'll probably never see again, where he comes out almost 3/4 to he was almost at center ice to break up a play, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah.
All that said, the Caps played prevent offense. We hate it in football when a team plays prevent defense and they let the other team get chunks of yardage, and you can no longer, and I don't know if coaches are getting this, because I think part of the reason we're seeing so many overtime games is that we are now, these coaches still think they can lock down a 2-goal lead or a 3-goal lead and not play any offense and just sit back on defense, and you can't do it anymore.
Also, I agree with you, and also, Russ, these teams have been coaching to tie games.
Yes.
For the last 2 months of the season, and that's why we're seeing this. Why we're seeing this too. I mean, we heard it. I mean, you found. I was shocked when we heard the Flyers actually admit to it.
Yeah.
They said we're just looking to get to overtime. That was.
Well, we knew that as covering them. We knew that.
You could see it in the way they played, and teams have been doing that for years. But this was the first time I heard a team like just unabashedly just say it. Like they just said, "That's fine. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get to overtime." And I think, I think that's part of it. I also think that there is an incredible amount of parity in the NHL, and I think that's what we're also seeing here. Just like the difference between the top and the bottom. I mean, and look at what we're at. Look at the 1 versus 8. The 8 is up 5-1 in that battle between both those. That's crazy. I mean, that's the 1 versus the 8.
I think the desire of the Leafs is greater than the desire of the Capitals. I think the Capitals thought by just playing their game, they could roll through this series, and they can't. And I think they're learning a valuable lesson. Now, whether they regroup or not, I don't know, because Barry Trotz was melting on the bench. He literally was, you could just see it in him that this game was killing him, and he was completely outcoached. We talked about a couple of games before him being outcoached. This game, it was like they didn't even have a coach. Like, well, it was crazy.
Well, and again, I mean, Barry Trotz is known as a conservative coach, and I don't think you can be a conservative coach with the Capitals and the offensive talent that they have. You have to accentuate what you have in terms of offensive players like Backstrom, like Ovechkin, like Kuznetsov, and take advantage of that. And in the first, I'd say for 15 minutes of the first period, they were not only doing that, they were pinning the ears back of the Leafs defense. They hit Marincin, injured him. They were down to 5 defensemen. They were hitting Zaitsev, they were hitting Riley and Gardner, and they just stopped. And I shared this observation, and maybe I'm completely off base, but the Caps last year, they had a piece taken out of them by Philadelphia in the first round. The series went to 6 games, and if you can use one thing as an excuse, maybe they got worn out a little bit in that series, and they didn't have enough in the tank to beat Pittsburgh. And I'm sure everybody knows they're probably looking ahead of Toronto, thinking they're going to beat Toronto, and looking forward to Pittsburgh, who's going to beat Columbus. If they're trying to conserve energy against Toronto to beat Pittsburgh, I'm sorry, you may lose to Toronto because you're playing so conservatively and trying to sit back. You can't do that. If you're going to beat Toronto, you got to attack their defense. That is their vulnerable area, and they didn't do it, and the Leafs made them pay.
And they did it, like you said, they did it for a while. I mean, they did it. I mean, the problem is this: like you have to keep going at the Leafs because the Leafs are showing resiliency right now, and that's something that they didn't necessarily show during the regular season. I know they were a team that gave up leads. They didn't come from behind very often, but they've shown a lot of it now recently. And they really, that second to last game of the season, was a big turning point for them. That Pittsburgh win was enormous. That they showed that they could come from behind when they had to win, and they won. It was at Pittsburgh, right? Second to last game. Yeah. So and so now what's happening is, the Capitals, they can school the Leafs if they want to. They go out there and they start off that way, but then at some point they switch to a prevent. Like you're saying, they're up 2-0, or up 3-1. They're at that point they're trying to hold them off. And the problem is with the Leafs, your best chance of playing defense is keeping them in their own zone, because the second they get out of there,
away from them.
Yeah, the second they get out of their zone, you're in trouble. So you can pressure the defense and forecheck them, and keep them down there. But the best defense is the good offense against Toronto. It's not going to be play defense against
the Capitals have a better defense, but the Leafs have a faster offense. And so what the Capitals need to do is they need to cycle the puck more and actually control the puck for a little while. They weren't controlling the puck. The minute they got it down there, it was bing shot, and it was like they didn't set anything up. Even Kuznetsov probably shot his shot a little too fast when he hit the post and had a chance to maybe bury a game winner or what could have been a game winner. And I looked at them, and the goal that you saw from Ovechkin, Anderson had no hope to stop.
Yeah.
No human on earth could have stopped that.
Right.
But that shot didn't come the rest of the game, and you wonder why. Why not?
Yeah.
Ovechkin goes through long stretches of time in the playoff. We see this Ovechkin in the regular season once in a while, where you wouldn't recognize him for a while, but you never would go through a playoff game not recognizing Ovechkin. Like, there's long stretches of period of time where Ovechkin is not noticeable on the ice, and I think part of it is the fact that he's playing hockey and he's playing a style that he wants to play, or that that Torts wants to play. Trotz. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, all I can say is early in the game, the Leafs had no answer for Backstrom, Ovechkin, and Oshie. They could not corral them. They were running free and wild, and they could not stop them. And that stopped. And honestly, I think when it became 3-1, the Caps thought they had them down. They thought, these young guys are, they're feeling the pressure on home ice, and they became passive. And you cannot do that against the Leafs. They will attack. They will attack with speed. They have a lot of offensive ability and creativity. And if you let them back in the game, they're going to gut you. And they did. And then now the thing is, at Washington Game 4, they're going to be without one of their best defensemen. Alzner is now out for Game 4. Yeah. So, Nate Schmidt helped on that. Got an assist on that.
They have enough.
Yeah, they have enough depth. But they have to play up tempo and aggressive.
They need to reel it in. I mean, you can't have a penalty right before overtime. You can't do it. Like, you knew that game was over when they did that, because it was just like, this is the.
I feel like, I'm sorry, but that was a lame call to make. Like,
but you know what? There's a lot of lame calls.
There were a couple last night in general. Like, there was another one also, and the Predators had a couple breaks.
Every game, every fan base is bitching. Here's my thinking on this. Every fan base is bitching now, especially when they lose, that the call made them lose. And we've been through this.
Oh, it didn't make them lose. No.
Calls don't make you lose. Every team is going through this. Every team is getting punched in the face. Corey Perry's punching people in the face from the bench. This is what's happening. Every fan base has to understand this is what playoff hockey is now. If your team loses, there are other reasons why your team lost.
Well, what happened? We talked about it yesterday, and it was funny because I got an email from a fan of the webcast right in the middle of the Leafs game. No, I'm sorry. Right after the Predators one. There were two different ones. There's one from the Leafs fan King we'll talk about, but the one after the Predators was appropriate because we talked about the problem with the Hawks being down 2-0 in the series was the fact that they were in a situation now where they couldn't afford a bad call, right? And that's what we talked about yesterday. And so this is what happens to them. They end up giving up a goal on a play that was, I think it was interference, and I think the Predators got away with it. It was crazy how quickly they came back with it not being interference. It was one of the fastest turnarounds. And it's funny.
I don't think it was interference. Yeah. I don't. And I'll tell you why. I did watch it 3 or 4 times, and again, look. The interference rule is as bad as the in the crease rule now. They need to really tighten this up. But from the best of my ability, I think they said it wasn't interference because Crawford was a millimeter out of the crease. That's what I think.
Yeah, he was I watched the video a few times, and he was at the top of the crease, and it looked like he was out.
Am I wrong about the rule? I mean, and again, this is like why here I am, here you all are. This is our job. We do this around the clock. And we are sitting here trying to figure out what exactly goaltender interference.
Well, Ray Ferraro said the same thing. We're not alone.
No, and I know, and that's what I'm saying. Still, the way Ferraro stated it was like, okay, if you establish position out of the crease as a goalie to make a save, you're as good as being in the crease, and that way, he established he was in position. No, that's not the case.
That's not the case anymore.
You are a protected person, protected if you are in the crease. It's if you're outside, it's sort of like
goaltender interference. Can't that still happen if you're outside the crease? I mean, interference can happen with any player on the ice.
Outside the crease. No.
Yeah, only
interfered with.
I mean, if you run them over, yes, I believe they would call it.
Yes,
because it's interference, right? If you get there before the puck gets there.
No, but then not with the ticky-tacky stuff. You would literally have to run him over, knock him down outside the crease to get that call now. I'm telling you, the same way that your skate just needs to be in the air for these offsides, it's the same thing for the goalie now outside of the crease, because now that in the video age, we are down to these little micromillimeter look at these things.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, you're obviously right, because they came back so fast with this call. That they just said all they said was not did he hit his head, or not did the guy chop his stick. They just said is he in the crease or not, which is the only thing they could have determined that quickly, and they did it. So
I don't agree with it.
I don't. Yeah, we don't, and that's the frustrating thing, and we just don't have any idea. And I think the Capitals, again, I thought that was a really lame call on the Caps with no time left. And I'm not going to sit there and say that that's the reason they lost, because again, like we've talked about, they can't leave it up for that kind of possibility. That you can't leave it for that chance of that happening. But if it happened the other way, I would have been pissed off too. Like I would have been pissed off.
But you know what? I can't tell you the amount of whining that has come out of the Bruins fan base because of their call. And it's like, listen, and again, Bruce Cassidy at the end of the game complains about the call, and then finally gets around to the fact that, well, maybe if we stopped it on the penalty kill, or maybe if we didn't blow a lead, there was that. But I have to give there's a woman on Facebook, Amy Stangl. She's a big Boston Bruins fan. She works in a bar in Massachusetts. She got it right. She understood that if they didn't blow the lead, you wouldn't have to worry about overtime. They didn't take care of business. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Well, in the Toronto game, I think was more the fact, and the referees, I don't know if they subconsciously or consciously do this, but they love to balance things up. And after giving the Capitals the 2-man advantage for a full 2 minutes in the second period, and then a penalty after that, and I think there was one more, Toronto got power plays in the third period when the game was tied. So they sort of balanced things up.
But that always.
Right. But I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious. That's the thing I'm saying.
I've always thought it was subconscious, but I think
it's subconscious.
But I think it's not maybe completely subconscious. I think that these guys are definitely aware of what's going on. But I think that usually I am a fan of, in the past, like balancing up ends with like 5 minutes left to go in a playoff game. Like there's no to call a penalty with We
just got trained to that. I think the problem is with us. We got trained to believe that was the case.
It was better that way.
It was the case for most of our lives, but
it was better that way. That's all I'm saying. I mean, yes, we did get trained, but it was better because everybody knew where they stood, and you knew that, like, because there were some plays down the stretch where I'm sitting there with my wife and she's watching the game and she's into it. It was a great game. We're watching the game and the kids are watching the game, and I'm saying, yeah, they're going to have to kill someone to get it. Like the Caps are going to have to kill someone to get a penalty here, because this game in Toronto, who's going to possibly give the Maple Leafs a power play, put the Maple Leafs shorthanded right now against that power play? And that also plays into it, because I think it also plays into the fact that you are going to put Ovechkin on the power play, and if you as a ref, that in your head you're like, you are giving the Caps, even though they gave him a 5-on-3, which I thought was actually legitimate. I thought those were both penalties. So. But I really just didn't see it. So then when that call happened, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And the first thing I thought, it's been a while since the Maple Leafs have been in the playoffs. So like my other thing is like, okay, so now we're going to see this happen, because I remember the Maple Leafs getting the benefit of calls in the past in my head. And I know that's not necessarily right, but I'm just saying that's where, so I'm sure fans are thinking the same thing.
And let me just say this, because it added to the color of the, I still haven't seen. There was a TJ Oshie interview in between periods, and I don't know. It sounded like his response to some of the questions were sort of I guess full of himself. I have to review the video, but I saw some back and forth about Oshie's intermission interview. But Evgeny Kuznetsov, dude, cool it with the bird celebration, because
that's it.
I'm all for, although I didn't like the bat flip by Jose Bautista in the playoffs, I'm all for spontaneous celebration and thing. But you're and he was mouthing off at some Leaf players. I mean, you do not give another team ammunition. That's bulletin board material. That's just stupid and idiotic and shows a lack of maturity. And this is the team that's supposed to be the experienced team, the deep team that's the heavily favored team that's supposed to be on track for the Stanley Cup. And honestly, I think the Leafs have shown more composure in the first 3 games than the Capitals have.
I think they have. I think that's
and
fair.
I'll go further with that. I'll throw it out right now that the Caps could win the series, but I'm not going to pick them against the Penguins.
No, and that's why I never picked the Caps.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, like the Penguins have all the skill and crazy talent that the Leafs have, plus they have a better, not a great, but a better defense, more experience, and all that stuff. So yeah, the Penguins, they're gonna take the Caps out if the Caps.
All right, this is gonna sound mean, but this is just my honest take on this. The reason I didn't pick the Capitals over the Penguins, and the reason I picked the Penguins going through, is because I don't think Mike Sullivan is a fantastic, unbelievable coach, but he doesn't screw anything up. Yeah. He doesn't get in the guy's way. He has a clear message. He really doesn't make them do something that's outside of what their abilities are. And Barry Trotz is doing that to this team. He is.
No, you're dead on, because you can go back in history and look at teams that have had total skill players like this. Okay, look at Edmonton. They had Muckler, right? And Muckler, this is really old for a lot of you guys, but Muckler was not an in-your-face coach at all. He let them. He put his players out there and let them do their thing. Yeah. Go back to when
the only time that didn't work for John Muckler was as the Ranger coach, because they didn't have anybody. The Rangers team was awful.
Right. And this Penguins, the Penguins team, right? And this Penguins team, remember them with Michel Therrien, was a disaster. In your face coach. They go to Bylsma, who's as hands off as you can possibly get. Way too hands off, in my opinion. Bylsma is, but he takes them to the next level. You just go through history. I mean, these coaches, the better coaches, when you have that much talent, you have to let your players play.
Yes.
The problem is Barry Trotz came in, and he's one of my favorite people in all of hockey.
He's an awesome guy.
Nicest guys. And even in the interviews now, like, that's when real class shows to me. Like, he's got to be unbelievably frustrated. And last night, his interview after the game was like, listen, they played really well.
He's a true professional. Always has been.
True professional, and he doesn't make excuses. He's just but he's not. But what he's doing here is he is trying to push his system onto this team to a point where he's got to let them go. He's got to let them go, and he's got to hope. And the reason he's not letting them go is because in the past, before he got there, they never worked, right? And they had coaches that let this team just play.
Even Justin Williams in that game got tight, and I saw it in the third period. He changed his game. It's like Justin Williams can't play that way.
I would go even further. Holtby got tight, and I don't remember ever seeing Holtby get tight in the game.
Yeah, he did get tight.
He to me is the most zen goalie there is in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, this is how weird, and we're going to talk about the other series now, but this is how weird last night was. You had Ottawa get up 3-0. You had Calgary get up 4-1. You had Chicago get up 2-0, and you had the Caps get up 2-0, and they all lost.
Yep.
Now, to go along with the thread of consciousness in terms of Barry Trotz, and I will give Barry Trotz the consideration of being a long time and a good NHL coach, that he recognizes what he's going to have to do in Game 4. And if he doesn't do it, then I think it's on him and it's on the Caps. But you cannot sit on a lead in this league anymore. You cannot defend a 3-0 or a 4-1 lead. You can't. Chicago is one of the best teams in the league. Maybe they have a lot of young kids, but their defense is good. They have a goaltender who won 2 Stanley Cups. They're leading 2-0 in Nashville, and they sat back and let Nashville come to them. You cannot do that. You have to continue to carry the attack, and if you don't do it, you're begging to be beaten. And that's what happened 4 times last.
Let's talk about Chicago and Nashville and get onto that one, because and unless there's anything else you want to add to this, the Maple Leafs.
No. I mean,
which was and I just can't wait for the next. I really hope the series goes 7. I think it's going to be. It's just so much fun to watch.
Well, I'll just tell you, it was a pretty wild scene in Maple Leaf Square. I was standing out there for 4.5 hours. Yeah. It got a little cold, and I had to find some refuge late in the third period, because I'm getting old, so I couldn't stand there much longer.
I had people emailing me, I just saw Mike outside. So cool. I was like, oh, everybody was fired up to see it. Pretty cool. So, yeah.
It was cool. It was cold, not cool.
Yeah. All right. So Nashville, Chicago, weird series. Last night the Predators played their best game of the series and were down 2-0. After 2 periods, in the first period, the Preds outshot the Hawks 20-6 or something like that. Like in a game where the Hawks can't fall, don't want to go down 3-0. They were dominated by the Predators in the first period. The thing about the Predators right now is that they have all these players. They're still playing well. Forsberg gets a couple goals, which has to happen for them. We talked about that.
Right.
But Fiala, oh my goodness, Fiala has become like the star of the playoffs right now. Like he is just what he is doing and what he brings to that team is, very much something that the Predators honestly have never had. Like you have to go back to Paul Kariya, to be honest. I'm not going to compare Fiala to Kariya talent-wise, but that shifty, small player, Danny Briere or whatever, that's gonna make plays that are really going to annoy the other team. He's a little bit immature still. You can see in his play, and especially his reaction to every time he misses a shot. Oh my gosh, it's like you got to get over that. That he shot one wide once. He shot. I'm going to say that slowly again. He shot one wide. He shot one off. Crawford made an incredible save. And and he's just freaking out every time he misses it. But the fact of the matter is, he's everywhere. He's always around the puck. He's something else, Russ. I mean, I had no idea about this kid.
No, they tried to have him come up last year, but I just don't think he was physically strong enough. And so he played a little bit and then got sent back down. I think that was the best thing for him because he isn't the biggest guy. He definitely has more strength. He's always had this shifty skating. Always. So he's always around the net, and he really does have a nose for the net. He is one of those guys, regardless of his size. He is a guy who he's one of those guys that wants the puck.
And he kind of reminds me of Jaden Schwartz.
Yeah, I think there's a good comparison there. And he doesn't have the speed of Schwartz, but he's got a lot of the other attributes.
Yeah.
But you have to want the puck in big situations. There are some guys that sometimes you could see they don't want the puck and they quickly pass it. He's not one of those guys. And I think with more opportunity, he will do more. And I think the extra year in the AHL really helped him. I do.
Yeah, he's a puck hawk. And just like I think Arvidsson's that type of player. Arvidsson is quick. He's small. He's feisty. He annoys his opposition. And, right now I don't think the Blackhawks need to be annoyed anymore. They're annoyed enough at themselves. Crawford played well yesterday, so I don't think he can be blamed for the loss. But I thought that, they would do something to try to change things up like they did a few years ago when they were down 2-0 to the Preds and put Darling in. Apparently that's not the direction that Quenneville wanted to go. And now, you can say that they have the best chance of any team down 3-0. But when you're down 3-0, unless the team that you're playing against who's up 3-0 spits the bit, you're pretty much done. I would never write off the Blackhawks. But, right now, Taves is not doing much. Post is not doing power play goal. Their defense, which it was deeper than it's been in the last few years, really hasn't been that effective. It's really genuinely shocking. But I don't think we're not the only ones who are shocked by the way that the Blackhawks are playing.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're not, and I think that, the Blackhawks, when they aren't playing really well, you start to look at them like a team that really has done a little bit of it with mirrors to a degree, because some of these guys like Richard Panik, we all remember Richard Panik in different situations. He's a good player, but is he the star that he's become? They had other guys on that team that were really young this year that have just taken over. I'm not saying they're completely doing it with absolute mirrors, but they are. You're starting to see the holes, and you're definitely starting to see that this is not the same Johnny Oduya from 2010. And that also, if you bring back, just because you bring back a guy doesn't mean he's going to be exactly like he was. He's not as fast. He's not as quick. He didn't have a great year for Dallas. He fits into their system, sure. And, it looks familiar and all that stuff. But, I think that, I think Seabrook has been bad in the series, to be honest. And that's rare to say. Duncan Keith has been sort of invisible at times. And Jonathan Toews, like we talked about, when Jonathan Toews' last playoff goal was? June 10th, 2015.
Wow.
I mean, and that's like, and this is Jonathan, and I'm not, people rip him as being not, I completely sold in. I admitted I was wrong on Jonathan Toews. I was like, I like Jonathan Toews, but I wasn't at the level where everybody else was with Jonathan Toews, where the Canadian media thinks he's the next best thing. Like, I never thought Jonathan Toews was Joe Sakic or Yzerman like.
No.
But but until the World Cup of Hockey, where I was damn impressed with his ability to, like, he basically won that thing for them. But at the end, but yeah, he does have that plays. But my goodness, and here's an interesting picture, Russ, you put up on your Twitter feed. I wanted to post to show this. This is pretty cool. I was looking at this. As you can see, so this is Russ interviewing Fiala here. When was this taken?
This was at the draft. So that was what, 2014? Yeah, 20 because he's got a 14 on his back. Yeah, that was at the 2014 draft, and this kid had a lot of confidence. Like, I knew coming into this draft that a team was going to get lucky to get him because he has that smirk on his face. He's got that offensive confidence, and he's a great interview. He's a great kid, and so I when someone took that picture, I was thrilled because I was like, you know what, he was one of the better interviews. He was.
No, he was impressed. Where was he taken in the draft?
20.
Yeah, it was the first round pick. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll get it. Hold on.
Yeah, this is something. I mean, he was something. He was really, just very impressed by the kid in general, and he's giving the Predators something that they have not had, which is that, I'm going to say, Briere-like thing, where he's in the right place at the right time and scores the big goals for them. And what's really interesting about the Predators, who has really
11th. I didn't see you went 11th.
He went 11th. Okay. What kind of surprised me about the Preds is they're doing all this, and yet, PK Subban has maybe been their third best defenseman in the series, which is really surprising to a degree. PK has not done what PK usually does in this series. He's kind of, I don't know if he's hurt or what's going on with him, but he doesn't seem to have quite the jump. Like, in Montreal, like, my memories of PK Subban were when Montreal had no offense at all. PK Subban would try to play offense and defense at the same time, and he would be all over the place. Now, maybe, he trusts his offense more in Nashville than he did in Montreal.
Maybe.
But he's just not. He's been okay, but he hasn't been incredible by any stretch of the imagination.
And he hasn't had to be.
He hasn't had to be, right. He hasn't scored, like, he's got to score at some point.
Even if he doesn't, it's right now. It's a winning formula. Like, this is.
Yeah, they're not complaining. I mean, right now,
the most astonishing series because I didn't expect the Blackhawks offense to go dead, and part of that's Pekka Rinne, and part of that is the Nashville defense. But I didn't expect them to go dead. Now, is it true now that you can call the Blackhawks sort of like a two-line team? Yeah, for the most part, because especially with playoff experience, that is the case. But still.
Yeah, I mean, it's very shocking, and Panarin has not even. I mean, he really hasn't made any kind of impact on the series at all. So, I mean, it's a two-line team, and the two lines are not producing. So when that happens, that's what happens when you get shut out twice at home, and you only scored 2 goals, and you need to probably score more than 2 goals to get a win on the road.
And
so
I'm not going to say that they're done yet, but I will say this: this is where the cap is finally catching up to Stan Bowman and the Blackhawks.
I totally agree. And that's why I say mirrors sometimes, because they've had to. I mean, and the fact you can put lesser players, not like great players, but lesser players with great players and get more out of them, and that's what they've done. They're taking average players and made them look like better than average players, but some of them are still average players. And that's okay. But I think that what you really saw last night was a Predators team that they know that Chicago is not done. They've been in this situation. There's so much experience. The Predators have learned to lose in the playoffs better than anyone could imagine. Like, they've never been past the second round, right? So they're still, and they've learned. Like, last year they won the first 2 games in Anaheim, and everybody, wow, it's awesome. And they came back and they lost the next 3 games in that series to Anaheim, and then they had to fight back and win 6 and 7 to win that series. I mean, lost Chicago before after winning the first 2 games in Chicago. So they're not. There's no like screwing with the Predators. They know that this is what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's setting up perfectly for 2 teams in the West right now. I mean, Nashville, St. Louis. I mean, if things continue to go the way they are, because both are up 3-0. that's the best matchup that Nashville could have thought of. If they beat Chicago, then they'd have to go through Minnesota, and Minnesota really hasn't shown up. So if it's Nashville, St. Louis, you could say the same thing for St. Louis not having to face Chicago.
Yeah.
But that's a favorable matchup for Nashville. And right now, Anaheim, and we have to talk about that one.
Well,
Randy Carlyle. I know I messaged this last night to Russ, and Russ thought it was a little bit of a quick hook after Gibson had won the first 2 games. But they're down 4-1 in Calgary. Calgary is running all over them, and Carlyle pulls Gibson and puts in Bernier. Bernier stops 16 of 16, and they come back from 4-1, tie, get 3 goals, and win it in overtime. And I'm telling you right now, Anaheim, and Perry showed up last night, but it's the young guys that have taken over. It's Silverberg, it's Raquel. They're getting offense from guys like Nate Thompson, which they didn't expect. They're weathering the storm without guys like Vatanen and Fowler in the lineup. And they come up probably after they beat Calgary, which I think is going to happen, against San Jose or Edmonton. Right now Anaheim is. They're rolling. Anaheim and
slippery slope, Mike. I don't want to mess with the Church of Carlisle here, but this is a slippery slope now because Jonathan Bernier has not been a great goalie for years. Now, was he a highly touted goalie when the Kings drafted him? Absolutely. Did he have?
But they might go back.
I think they go right back to Gibson.
If they don't, I'm telling you, this is a slippery slope. If they
don't. And especially you're right, Preston, especially for Anaheim, because, this is their history has been screwing up their goaltending in the playoffs.
Yes.
But I think the situation last night was they are so confident in their ability to beat Calgary just because they have inside Calgary's head that he's like, I'm just not going to get Gibson hurt. I'm going to rest him, whatever. We'll bring him back in. We'll find
the case. I'm cool with it.
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
One of the passes of the year last night, throw this out, it was this crazy goal by Ekman Larson in the game. Not Carlson. Sorry, Carlson in the game.
Oh, you mean the Mike Hoffman goal?
I'm going to show this one. This is like your best goaltending. Your best quarterbacking play for a long time here. He's the guy because he might pointer. This is him right there, Carlson. So he's going to take the puck from basically and go to his own. See, here it goes. So from his own goal line. And just thread the needle. It's just crazy pass.
I don't know what's more impressive because they showed this on Hockey Night in Canada, and they showed the pass was like 10 feet above the ice, and the pass was flat as a flying saucer.
Yeah.
But what's more impressive is Hoffman corralling that puck. I think that's more impressive. And then he does the Forsberg to score the goal.
You can see it here. Watch.
I think
you can see there's the puck, and he just corrals it perfectly. And the Forsberg.
It wasn't a puck. It wasn't a puck. It was a frisbee. It was a frisbee throw.
But this is why I say that as good as any other defenseman is, Carlson is the best defenseman of his generation. He doesn't get the credit for it. He does not.
Did you see Bobby Ryan's interview?
Yes, Bobby Ryan's interview was awesome.
Talking about Carlson, and then of course.
No, not talking about Carlson. The other part.
I can show you both because I actually have. But they
show us the other part. He doesn't need we don't need to see Carlson.
Yeah, no, he was. This is like so here's Bobby right here. I'll throw this up here. So.
Thank you very much. Right, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, right? Is that where I'm from? Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
There you go.
That was the greatest Pierre burn in a.
Oh, I know because. And we can all tell explain the burn part of it because it's really funny.
Well, because Pierre, people do get tired of hearing, well, he's from Cranberry, New Jersey, and he's from Oakville, Ontario, and he played for, the Erie Otters, and once in a while it's okay, but it's every minute filling that with an NHL broadcast, and NHL fans don't like that. They don't.
I was waiting for Pierre to ask him how his breath was.
It was so funny because Pierre knew he was getting digged and didn't know how to react to it right away.
Yes.
He was like, it really threw him off. And it's usually what's really wonderful about this is, I'm from Cherry Hill, so it's really fun. And I'm sitting there talking to my kids. And I'm like, he's from Cherry Hill. I last year at the US camp, I brought him a Ponzio's shirt, from this diner. And Bobby Ryan wears all the time. He loves this Ponzio shirt, which is like a famous Cherry Hill diner.
Yeah, it's a good diner.
Yeah, so the kid grew up right around the corner from me, and so I'm sitting there and I'm talking about this, and then he brings it. But it was always, because what Pierre always does is he always says, like you said, it's always like an obscure Canadian town. You'll never hear like an obscure, southern New Jersey town.
Right.
You hear like Moosonee, Ontario, or whatever.
Right.
And you'll get, and that's a throw out to Puck Crazed Model from Moosonee, Ontario, friend of mine out there. So one of Mike's future wife.
My future girlfriend.
Yeah, your future wife. the parent of your future children. The mother of your children, yeah. So anyway, yeah, she's from Moosonee, which is like way the hell up there. It makes Giroux look like he's from the South. So
okay.
Yeah, it's really something. So anyway, I thought that was great. And Bobby Ryan,
awesome.
What's funny about Bobby Ryan? So I texted him last night. He's no longer on Twitter. I didn't realize that. I put out.
Yeah, no, he had a little bit of a Twitter controversy right before the end of the season. That's why.
Yeah, so he took himself off.
First of all, a couple Twitter notes. The star of yesterday in Toronto was the guy who's been dubbed Dart Guy.
I'm
guy,
so sick of Dart Guy. When they lose, when he's sitting there on his throne and they lose a game, what's going to happen?
And this is Russ. This is his 15 minutes of fame. He's got like now 10,000 followers on Twitter. And nobody will know why. And everybody's switching their, I mean, it's funny, it's cute.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't get even more humorous. Well, even more humorous. The Mike Modano thing on Twitter today. Apparently, Modano tweeted out, "Enjoy the 2 games, Toronto. The Capitals in 5." Everybody can make their prediction. That's fine. And then Joe Bowen, the play-by-play announcer of the Leafs, when Bozak scores the winning goal, basically said, "Take that, Mike Modano." So it's just everybody's getting caught up in the one-upsmanship of social media. I think it's entertaining, but I think it shouldn't be taken too seriously.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I love when people Bobby. He was just always spoke his mind. Like he wasn't like one of those guys who said something really stupid on Twitter. He just kind of had his.
No, he just spoke his mind. That's all he did.
Whenever he got involved in the Phil Kessel ribbing on the Team USA when he and Kessel weren't invited to the play for that team. But yeah, it's really something else. Now this is something interesting. The Predators tomorrow night will try to do something that's never happened before, which is an 8th seed sweeping a 1st seed. That's never happened in the NHL, which is something that
I thought the Kings did the Canucks.
They didn't sweep them.
They didn't sweep them, I don't think.
They didn't sweep them? Okay.
I mean, according to this article I was reading, they are trying to become the first 8th seed ever to sweep a 1st seed.
See, I thought you were going to tell me that Carrie Underwood was going to again surprise the fans and do another anthem, but it's like, really, was that a big surprise? I mean, you knew she was going to do that.
I mean, I thought it was awesome. Okay.
No, but it's not a surprise. Like I saw people posting, "This is a surprise." Yeah, it's a big surprise. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll go on a limb. I'll go out on a limb here. I much prefer Carrie Underwood to Kate Smith.
Oh, now.
That's not even nice.
There we go. Right here she is. Check this out.
As we are in the United States with a singing of the
national first of all, to throw this into a little more perspective here, this is Paul,
Paul
McCann, Hockey Buzz guy, who is the guy who says, Predators goal scored by guy, in the arena. So he's the one who knew about this. So here we go. This is really good.
And joined 7-time Grammy Award winner and longtime Predator fan, Carrie Underwood, as we enter the United States with a singing of the national anthem.
She's wearing like a Mike Fisher shirt, right?
Can you see?
I'm trying to stay awake here.
Yeah. We know the anthem. Thank you.
But I was gonna say, as a hockey player myself, growing up for years playing hockey, there is nothing cooler at all than your girlfriend wearing your jersey. And
no, that's cool. That's fine.
You know what I mean? So to see her, here's Carrie Underwood, who Mike Fisher moved to Nashville for her job. It's like how often does that happen, right? The professional athlete moves to someplace because that's where her job is. So he moves there to help her out, to be closer to her. Is great, great guy, great family, and taking less money than he probably had to. And the Preds, honestly, have given him good money because that's just the way they are. And it's been a really good relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But she doesn't do this. This isn't something that she comes out and sings, very often. So it was. I mean, they have Vince Gill go out and do it. He's been sort of their mascot at times when they.
But it's not a surprise. That's my point. A surprise is if Katy Perry does the national anthem. That's a complete surprise.
But this might be the first time that, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not, but the first time that a wife of a player, I just thought it was cool, just in general.
Oh, it is cool. I just laughed when I heard it was a surprise. That's all.
And they kept it under their hat, which is not easy to do because, those hats in Nashville are big. So, basically. All right, so tonight, before we get out of here, we got to talk about what's going on tonight. So, we got, they have the Rangers, starting with the Rangers, who have to win a game in Madison Square Garden tonight.
They do.
And I think they will. I honestly think they will win this game.
Give me a reason or a basis, because I can't come up with a reason unless they take my advice and severely change up the lineup and at least put in some guys who could score on the power play and they change the way that they're playing and they actually try and skate and not get mixed up with all the other garbage. I don't see how they're going to win, Exo. Please tell me how. How are they going to win?
I think they're going to win because I think that I think Radulov is not consistently going to be able to keep Montreal winning games. Like he's to me, he is the difference.
Oh, it's a matchup. Right now, it's a matchup the Rangers have never really had in the playoffs. They've never played against Radulov. This could be the worst matchup for them. So I may disagree with you on it just because.
Yeah, anything's possible. But
it could be something that he knows the flaw.
I think
pretty good. Lundqvist is pretty good with his back to the wall, right? Like he's a goalie who has proven over time to be very difficult to beat in this kind of situation. So,
I think the Rangers really have to take a lesson from the Capitals last night. I think they need to step up their physical game against the Habs. They have to not run people, but they have to hit Weber, hit him continually, wear him down because he's going to play a lot of minutes. They're without Emelin. Their defense, I don't think, is the best. And honestly, you have to get in Carey Price's kitchen. I'm not saying run. I'm not saying Kreider should do that. But I'm saying get in front of the net, disturb them, bother them. That's the way you throw them off your game. And if the Rangers don't do that, then they're going to lose in 5. So they better step up.
Yeah, they have to do that. They have to come at them hard.
In the past, I would have said this is a guarantee that Lundqvist wins this game because even in the Stanley Cup, we knew he was going to win a game for the Rangers and not let the Kings run roughshod.
Yep.
I don't know if that exists anymore, not because of Lundqvist, but because of the way the rest of the team plays at MSG. There's now stories written about how they can't hear the crowd anymore at MSG, and part of it is the acoustics, and part of it is the corporate people that have moved in. Because the regular fans are still yelling and yelling loud, but the problem is you can't hear them anymore. So that's a part of it. And the place goes silent quicker than it used to, too. Even Max Pacioretty, who is from Connecticut, talked about it. So if you want to talk about how a redesign has taken away home ice advantage from a franchise, it's never existed more than it's existed at MSG. And this is a worry now.
Yeah. No. So that's the one. And the next up you have, Pittsburgh trying to eliminate Columbus tonight.
Oh, wait, one thing.
Yeah.
And this is something where Mike, I think we have to give Claude Julien credit because he realized that Galchenyuk will be at center. So he's keeping him at center now, which is smart.
Yeah, but Russ, it's easy to do that when they're up in the series and you can take a few more chances. I mean,
but he had to do it.
He had to do it, but you watch at the beginning of next series. I wouldn't doubt that Galchenyuk, if he falls back into the patterns that Julien doesn't like, he ends up back on left wing or back on the 4th line.
He's keeping Torrey Mitchell in there too, which is smart. That was another change that I proposed, and that's smart.
He's a better coach. I think he's a fluid situation. I think he's a better coach. But I will say this, Julien too, though, he's notorious for announcing something like that just to kind of mess with the Rangers. He'll put that out there and then he'll play Galchenyuk the first shift at center and then maybe not the rest of the game. So just to try to get the Rangers thinking of different things, trying to keep them a little off balance and to also take the pressure off of his team a little bit. So you can see there's a lot of different situations there. Now, something I want to bring up about the Penguins and Blue Jackets. Who would have ever thought, okay, that going into the first round of the playoffs, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets would be, the Blue Jackets would be the team with more pressure on them. And it's just funny to me. Like I was thinking about this last night. These are the two youngest teams in the playoffs. Okay, so you can take what the Blue Jackets did in the regular season, and you can say that was amazing. But really, since that streak, they've been average and they've been okay. You can take the talent level of these two teams. They are younger than the Maple Leafs, and yet everybody's ripping them for being down 3-0 to the Penguins. And everybody say, "Oh, we expected more out of them. We expect more." And yes, you can say that. And I know you picked them, Russ, and I thought they would do better than this too, but at the end, it's amazing how much pressure is on the Blue Jackets, compared to the Maple Leafs with these two young teams. Really.
It's the point total, Ack. I really think it is. It's the point. It's the fact that they had I think it was 105 points.
They're going to be the most amount of points that's going to be eliminated in the first round.
Right. They were the third-ranked team in the NHL. It didn't matter if they were third place in their division. They were the third-ranked team in the NHL. So the expectation was that they would give Pittsburgh all they could handle. And then Matt Murray gets hurt and Marc-Andre Fleury is in. And Fleury has not played as well as Murray has this year. So everything seemed to be in place for Columbus to be competitive. And the thing is, Columbus has not played, except for that first period, they have not played sort of that physical, sort of balls out offensive game or forechecking and aggressive physical game that was their, that was what they did during the regular season, and I think it's cost them. I think they're being passive. They're afraid of making mistakes, and Pittsburgh every time they do are there to put the puck in the net. So they're being outclassed.
The difference between the Leaf series and this series, and the reason I did pick Pittsburgh and in 5. Was because, A, they're the Stanley Cup champs. There is always something to try beat the Stanley Cup champs when you're a young team like that. But, B, they have Sidney Crosby. And everybody was worried, how hurt's Malkin? Malkin doesn't look that hurt. And so when you have two guys like that, that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on defense that does have some young players. Now Werenski's out of the series. It's just, this is the funny thing.
They're in trouble. No question.
Tortorella is actually going to just deadpan this, because he knows there's better days to come, and he's, again, giving these guys experience. So he's taking the long view of it, and I give him credit for that. I do, because, I don't always give John Tortorella credit, but I think you have to take the long view approach on this. You know that you're going to get Pierre-Luc Dubois probably next year. You know that there's other changes coming that will help them. And so, you know what? This is Sidney Crosby. I mean, when Jake Guentzel gets a hat trick, you're not going to beat him. You're just not. And so the next team that has to play the Penguins, they're in trouble too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's in goal. That's the funny thing about Pittsburgh. They've got two really capable goalies, so it doesn't even matter. Either one of them can win you a Stanley Cup.
It won't matter until, if they, and now it will matter in the next round, I think. I
think so. I disagree.
I don't know. I think Matt Murray will. I think it will. I still think the Penguins. I would pick the Penguins against either Washington or Toronto, but I do think.
Wow. Jeez.
No, I would, but I think that. But
no. What I was saying was, if it's Toronto, my God, you think Washington?
If they beat Washington, they're there. So the reality is, I think Matt Murray. They're going to need Matt Murray to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think that. I don't know that. Marc-Andre Fleury's done it before, so I shouldn't say that. But I feel as if the better talent you go against offensively, this is not a team with a whole lot of offensive talent that they're playing right now. The Columbus Blue Jackets, they have a lot of balanced scoring. They've got some guys that are very good offensively, but this is not like a sharpshooting team like either Washington.
They don't have to be a sharpshooting team. That's the funny thing. Guys like Brian Rust have figured out how to score in the playoffs. They have team speed.
Yeah. No, those guys will score, but I think defending.
I'm not jabbing you, Mike. I'm not. I'm just saying these guys have figured. They have some guys that are clutch guys that have figured it out. Crosby is definitely the engine, and at the end of the day, there's really nobody better than Sidney Crosby in the playoffs right now. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but that's the way it is. And for as long as that's going, this team believes in Fleury as much as they believe in Murray. And I don't think Fleury's skills have really declined. I just think he's taken a back seat. I think that's as simple as that.
No, I think that is it. I think you're right. Finally,
I was just going to say, and Jim Rutherford is the happiest man in the world with Fleury winning in the playoffs, because this summer when they try to trade him, he'll get that much more for him.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I don't disagree there. Finally, the last game of the night probably could be the most interesting. Edmonton and San Jose. And I think that this is where you're going to see San Jose's experience. And what I don't know about Edmonton yet, and granted they've gotten great goaltending. They have 2 shutouts running right now. Is can Edmonton? The thing about Edmonton for me as a team has always been their lack of being able to put teams away. I want to see what they can do in the playoffs. Like, I mean, we talked about before many times. Edmonton's, since I'm on the East Coast, I would watch Edmonton the last couple of years. I would fall asleep and they would be up 2-0, and I would wake up and they lost 4-2 or whatever.
Right.
So I want to see what they can do now in a playoff series. That is expanded because you really have to have a killer instinct to put a team. They cannot take the night off thinking they're up 2-1. I
don't think they're going to, but
yeah.
And Scotty Bowman can say home ice isn't what it used to be, and he's right. But San Jose has great home ice advantage. That is a really hard place for an opposing team to go into. It is the unfriendly confines for them, and they do get a boost there, the Sharks. And so this, for a young team, this would be an impressive win if they could come in there and win at the Shark Tank. I'm expecting San Jose to win this one. Yeah, forget about 2. I'm just talking about tonight. Yeah.
No, but I mean 2 times in a row. They're won once. If they win 2 in a row, and 2
in a row, yeah, you're right. They won 1. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean to sweep in San Jose would be.
San Jose would be very tough. Yes.
Let's go to the draft lottery simulator, shall we? Okay, so here we go.
Let's go, big money.
There's a question someone asked me: is it possible the Avalanche will finish below the Vegas Golden Knights next year? Here's the winner. Ready? The winner is the Vegas Golden Knights.
That would be something.
That would be something. I would be happy for them. That would be great for the NHL.
It would be.
The Buffalo Sabres always second. Buffalo Sabres and the Vancouver Canucks. That's something to happen. And the Canucks.
I'm going to tell you this. I don't think that the Avalanche will finish behind the Knights because they'll have just as good a goalie as the Knights will. They'll have Rantanen, who will play really great next year. They still have McKinnon. They may still have Duchesne.
Yeah.
The Knights aren't going to have that good offense. They're not.
Yeah. Like we said on a previous show, I think the race is Vegas versus Arizona.
Yes, that's the race.
Yeah, I guess you might be right. It'll be a hot race, that's for sure.
Well, and here's the other thing that's not being talked about a lot right now, Ek, but is a factor. I heard that Dave Tippett does have an out in his contract. It's been written on Twitter. Matthew Barry, I think, was the first one to write it. And so, and while he may be interested in checking that out, is it possible that not only would the Kings be interested, but if the Rangers get beat here by the Canadians, would they reach out? I kind of wonder.
Boy, that would be interesting. Both those situations, because Tippett is a tough coach to bring in. He's the coach that you bring in when you feel like you're.
Well, is Vigneault a tough coach? No,
he's not. So obviously you're going to go the other. And but Sutter was. So
yes.
Normally you have that. That the natural cycle of life, in the NHL, you go to a player-friendly coach now, in LA, and a tougher coach in New York. But, so I think Tippett with the Rangers, I would like to see what Tippett could do with
players, with actual players. Like he hasn't had a good team in so many years. No,
he's been, like we said, the best coach of the island of misfit toys ever. Like that's what he does. He's put that group together I thought he'd be a great choice for Vegas, but that's we'll see where he goes. All right, guys, that's it. But we have to enjoy the games tonight, and check out all the blogs on HockeyBuzz.com. We appreciate you guys following us on Twitter. And remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.